Well, hi everybody. Welcome to week 8, the final week of our review preview video. So we're at the end, and I'll talk about going forward what you have to do for your final week. A number of things to clean up so we can finish up all the work for the course. But for the review part, I want to talk a little bit about really kind of recapping what the purpose of the course is and how it relates to what you do going forward. So as you go forward in the MPH course, the topics of your courses will become more specific. You'll have, quantitative analysis, epidemiology, policy, so things that are very, fine-tuned on a specific topic within the field of public health. The purpose of this course, being the Global Public Health Concepts course, was to give you kind of a, as I mentioned, a sampler platter of public health. And so, in doing so, I wanted to one again give you an introduction and an initiation into these different topics that you'll be addressing more directly going forward, but also beyond the conceptual aspects, really kind of getting you in a way of thinking in public health and in graduate course public health, which it's a new way of thinking. I mean, when we look at problems as you develop and get your skills more fine-tuned, you'll be able to think of it in terms of a public health way that looks at things maybe a little bit differently than you did before you entered the program, and certainly different than the way that people typically, outside of the public health community look at public health issues. So, for example, the topics that we talked about, we focused on the socio-ecological model, more so in one of your lectures. And, that talks about the idea that, what impacts everything we do, which subsequently leads to health outcomes, good or bad, are influenced by things all the way from our personal genetics up through policy levels or policy decisions. And those different levels work independently and interdependently. And that kind of goes back to an earlier topic of talking about trying to identify what is really the problem that we are facing. I do remember very clearly eh, something with my wife's family. I think it was her grandmother's birthday. And we were at somebody's house, and someone asked me what I did. And at the time, this is when I was at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So my work was strictly on physical activity and obesity. And my wife introduced me saying, well, John works on understanding why people are overweight. That's, how she put it. And the person said, well, it's easy. They don't eat and they don't eat well and they don't exercise. And that's typically where it kind of ends for a lot of people. But we know it's much more deeper than that. Why don't they eat well? What are the forces, in their environment that are prohibiting them from eating well? Why don't they exercise? What's going? So I mean, that public health lens is, a way of thinking and always understanding that there's more to it than maybe what we think. There's always an opportunity to sort of peel the layers back of our personal and societal variables that all contribute to health behaviors and health outcomes, good and bad. So as you go forward, don't lose sight of that. As you go specifically on these specific topics, it does fall within the realm of public health and thinking in that broader term and bringing in all, the biomedical and the social variables that come into play into everything we do. So I hope that as you've gone through these 8 weeks, you've developed that way of thinking, or at least been introduced to it, and then you'll take it with you. And I can see that you've been doing that as your work has developed, even in these first 7 weeks. And with that in mind, you've all done a very good job. I really have appreciated everything that you have submitted. I have seen growth in each and every one of you and how you go about your work, and I really look forward to your final paper. Speaking of which, here we are in the final week. So, just to recap, I have it written down. So, your assignments for this last week on Tuesday, you have to do your presentation of your final paper. I'll get to that in a second. By Wednesday, you need to submit what is your final quiz. Now, it's not the quiz that we typically have been doing. This is a quiz in that you need to make a post on the most important public health topics. There are two links to look at: CDC's top problems, public health problems, and then an international focus. And so, write about that. That is just a post. There are no responses involved with that. Friday, you do need to respond by Friday to your classmates' presentations. Now, I would ask you, I probably should bump this up to Thursday in future sessions, because the sooner you can respond to your classmates, the sooner that they can read them. And if there's anything they want to tweak in their final paper, that provides the opportunity. So I'd ask you, um, yes, it's due Friday, but the sooner the better. And then Saturday at 11:59 p.m., your final paper is due. And then I have to submit grades on Tuesday. So there really isn't wiggle room. So I do need to make sure we stick to those deadlines, which you guys have been doing fantastic throughout the entire session. I haven't had to hunt anybody down for any assignments. So thank you for that. That makes life easier for everybody. So Tuesday, okay, so you are going to do a presentation. Here's the thing. It's universally accepted and understood. Nobody likes the sound of their own voice. And if you're using, a video component, nobody likes to watch themselves talk. I would say very few people do. So what I would say to you is this. Don't expect perfection in your presentation. If you stumble over a word, you jumble something, you have to kind of quickly correct yourself. Don't use that as a reason to scrap the whole thing and start over again. If you go down that rabbit hole, before you know it, you're going to be on take 10, 11, and 12, and you'll be spending a whole lot of time that you don't need to waste. Okay. So just trust yourself, relax, just let it flow, talk about what you know, and we'll all look forward to hearing, what you have to say. And then my last thing, my last ask of you is course evaluations. So please check your SAU mail. You should have received messages. You might be receiving multiple messages from our course evaluation people who are in charge of this. Please, please, please fill out the evaluation form. And part of the reason, well, first of all, I want to know what you have to say. And please be honest. We are a young program, and I want to know what you think is working and maybe what's not working. So then those could be tweaked in future iterations of the course. I really want to hear what you have to say. And unfortunately, for us to get that information back, I need at least 3 surveys completed. Now, there are only 4 of you, so I would love to hear from all 4 of you, so please do that. But if I hear from less than 3, I don't get it. And the reason for that is basically if you have, only 1 or 2 surveys, you could probably figure out who said what. And we want this to be anonymous unless you want to identify yourself in the comments, which you can do, however you choose to do. So I will be bugging you with a post about that too, and probably an email. So please, please do the observation forms. I would greatly appreciate it. So with that in mind, please let me know if you have any questions. I will be available. Again, I look forward to hearing what you have to submit. You've done a fantastic job this session. I hope you feel good about yourselves and about your standing in the MPH program, because I have nothing but great things to say about each and every one of you, and nothing but complete confidence that you'll be successful going forward. So with that, have a great week and take care.